highway this week comes from Greenwich, which means that from where I'm standing, it's only 6 miles to the very heart of London. But this line laid out on the ground here indicates something of even more importance than Britain's capital city. But before we go into that, and why you don't have to ask a policeman for the time here, let's take a glimpse of some of the people and places we'll be visiting. Although Greenwich is now a busy inner London borough, overlooked by the huge Docklands development of the East End, this bend of the River Thames used to be a quiet little bay, flanked on its southern side by a gentle wooded hill. Today, just down the hill, the history of Britain's relationship with the seas around us is vividly recorded in the wonderful National Maritime Museum. Some superb young musicians will play for us in an exciting new church development. Another young man shows how he completed the marathon course in the fastest time ever recorded, for a wheelchair competitor, that is. Over the years, Highway has uncovered many stories of courage, and in tonight's programme, more people add their tales to the list. John Miles' song says it all.
I feel in a song. Just what they mean, and if it means that my hopes were not meant to be, there'd be no one to blame, only me. The right to live, the right to breathe, to stand by all the things that I believe. Can't say I know it all, but someone has to try. I will stand or I will fall, live or die. I will stand or I will fall, live or die.
This building is for the observer's habitation and a little for pomp. That's what the famous architect Sir Christopher Wren said in 1675 of the house he built for the Reverend John Flamstead, Britain's first astronomer royal. Today, although the murky city atmosphere put our oldest observatory out of business years ago, Flamstead is still a vital place. And who better to tell us about it than that expert astronomer Heather Couper? Heather, what is the meridian and why is it here?
Well, basically, Harry, it's a line that divides east from west all around the world. So at the moment, the way you're standing, most of you is in the western hemisphere, a little bit of you is in the eastern hemisphere.
Oh.
If you shift a bit more. Anyway, it goes all the way around the world. It marks a zero of longitude. And the reason for that is the observatory was built here about 300 years ago, not for astronomers just to look at the stars in the sky, not just for the fun of it, but to measure exactly where they were. Because at the time, Britain was this great maritime power, and King Charles II kept losing ships at sea because his sailors couldn't find east from west. You see, it's easy to find north-south, but not so easy to find east-west. But there is one way of doing it, because the world is spinning all the time, and that means you get different times in different places. You know how it is when you phone up your aunt in New York and she says, oh, it's only 3 o'clock in the morning, whereas for you it's a lot later. So what the astronomers at Greenwich decided to do was to put a telescope in the observatory which would watch the stars as they rose and set, rising in the east, crossing the sky, and setting in the west, and exactly time the moment they crossed an imaginary line that went north-south across the sky. And they did this for thousands and thousands of stars and eventually got so good at measuring time at Greenwich, so you could measure time at one place, tie it down to that place, and it became known as Greenwich time, and the line that the time was measured from became known as the Greenwich Meridian, and there it is now.
There it is. Now, how much has the job of Astronomer Royal changed since Flamsteed's time?
Oh, good heavens. Well, Flamsteed, of course, he was employed really by the king to measure positions of stars in the sky so we could actually make shipping safe. Today's Astronomer Royal, well, astronomy's changed so much. It's not so much finding the positions of the stars for navigation. It's very much a matter of learning what the stars are. But today's Astronomer Royal, well, I don't think he has any real royal duties, but I understand that if everybody in the world forgets what day of the week it is, it's up to the Astronomer Royal to be the arbiter on which day it is.
Is that right? Medieval Greenwich was dominated by a great royal palace. Henry VIII was born here, and so also was Queen Elizabeth I. And was here beside the Thames she knighted that great sea traveller Sir Francis Drake. Today, the tourists travel to Greenwich to see a building which has been called the most enchanting villa in England. Built in 1616, it's called the Queen's House and is on land given by King Charles I to Queen Henrietta Maria. Apparently it seems it had a bit of a tiff and he wanted to make up to her. And here's another vital clue to Greenwich's past, the barge house in the National Maritime Museum. This one was built in 1732 for Frederick, Prince of Wales, who travelled safely and in great style on the Thames. From the waterfront, there's a perfect vista of the former Naval Hospital, designed by yet another great architect, Nicholas Hawksmoor. Today is the Royal Naval College, and in the King William building is this wonderful painted hall. James Thornhill decorated this hall with a huge painting depicting peace and liberty triumphing over tyranny. Today, the Admiral, whose responsibilities include the Royal Naval College, is Second Sea Lord Admiral Sir Brian Brown. Admiral, now, this is James Thornhill who painted the picture, isn't it?
Yes, that's right, Harry. He was commissioned to do the whole of the painted hall. £3 a square yard for the ceiling and £1 a square yard for the walls. And by the time he'd finished, the rate of inflation meant that that was looking pretty thin. And he was certainly keen to get some more money, hence the outstretched hand that he painted here.
Yes.
Whether he was hoping perhaps he could get some out of the back door there, I'm not sure. But certainly he was not at all pleased with what it meant for him in terms of salary. And when it was finally completed and a great party was held here to celebrate the event, he didn't come because he felt he hadn't been correctly paid.
Did he get it in the end?
No, he didn't.
Did he?
No, which is sad, really, isn't it?
Because he looks sad, doesn't he?
Yes, yes. Well, all he got was just under £7,000 for 19 years' work.
God, Lord.
Great work, too.
Yes. You have a great affection for the Royal Naval College, haven't you?
Well, yes, I have. Spent some very happy time here. And so it's particularly nice for me, as I inevitably get towards the end of my career, that I'm back here again as the Admiral President, which I never ever contemplated. It's still more or less a sort of naval university. What it does is that it takes the officers who until then have spent most of their time at sea, but have got to a stage of their career where they're going to have to meet wider challenges. And it stretches and broadens their minds and presents them with all the dilemmas and problems and complexities which are going to face them as they move towards higher command positions and towards filling important staff positions.
Now we move across to the matching Queen Mary building and to the Royal Naval College's magnificent chapel. Above the altar is a dramatic painting of St. Paul's shipwreck on Malta. The choir sings for us a hymn so cherished by the Royal Navy, Eternal Father, strong to save. Years ago, thousands of Allied troops benefited from an extraordinary act of courage by the crews of literally hundreds of little ships that were a familiar sight on Britain's rivers. Many of the rivermen who risked their lives on their boats by crossing to the evacuation of Dunkirk came from the Thames. The Riverboard King, built in 1902, proudly bears a plate commemorating her role as one of the little ships that helped to save an army. Harry Ambler is one of the rivermen who took part in this historic evacuation. Harry, what made you volunteer to go?
Well, the thing is that I thought it was my place to go. As a waterman and lineman on the Thames.
Yeah.
And it appears that under our indentures, we have become automatically, in the event of a war, as an able seaman in the Royal Navy.
So you're in?
So you're in.
Yes.
Whether you like it or not. When we got over there was a beach master, a naval commander, shouting to us, pick up the troops off of each beach. Because the simple reason the big ships couldn't get in there. There was only the mole then. And I found that through our own stupidity, getting them aboard the boat, she was on the bottom, so...
They swamped the boat, did they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I got a ship's lifeboat and let that go in on a rope and pulled them off of there and then off to the big boats.
So you were ferrying them
in and out, in and out.
Yeah.
And you just done it as you felt like it.
Were you frightened at all?
Oh, who isn't? I mean, say everyone's a coward at heart, aren't they? Never mind where it is. but your bottle's got to stop there, hasn't it?
50 years ago, At the outbreak of World War II, many of Greenwich's younger generation were evacuated. And here in this shop, a fascinating experiment in education is taking place. Greenwich's children are helping the older generation relive their childhood experience of evacuation.
The labels that you're wearing around your necks, I objected very much to wearing the label that I was given. I said I wasn't a piece of luggage. Why do you think that we had to wear labels?
Here at the Reminiscence Center, everyone is taking part in age exchange. Pam Schweitzer is the director. Pam, why do you call it age exchange?
We realise that older people have a lot of experience, a lot of life stories, that it's important to record and that it's fun to record. The older people enjoy telling stories of their lives to people who are interested in them. And it's also a centre we have here. We've created a Reminiscence Center, and that's what we're now standing in, the only one of its kind.
Yeah, I see. What have we got here then?
Well, this is paraphernalia connected with a theatre project, an exhibition, and children from all the local schools are coming in and they're meeting people who were evacuated 50 years ago, and they're taking part in the project. The children themselves are playing children of 1939 on the couple of days before war broke out, going to be evacuated to the countryside.
Would you like to be an evacuee?
Yeah, I would. I think it would be quite exciting. But I don't know that I'd want to leave my parents because you wouldn't know whether you'd see them again.
We get a lot of children, school children, who want to learn about the past in a very accessible way, a very open, friendly way, and to learn from older people. And we get a lot of recently retired people who want to play an active part in the community and who want to come and record their stories as well.
All the children sat around the outside of the hall, and people used to come in and on a list. They were on the list. The billeting officer had the list, and he would go round to the people and say, well, who would you like? And the people in the hall would go and look at the children, and they might pick tall ones, short ones. If they had a farm, they might want strong boys. But if they didn't have a farm and they hadn't got a very big house, they might want small children. So that's the way that they chose us.
Well, I got left behind and I thought, goodness, nobody wants me. But the billeting officer took me, and she was also the doctor's wife, and she was very kind.
It was a startling new experience for the Greenwich community as they coped with evacuation. More than 200 years ago, an equally startling change came as the expansion of London engulfed this 18th century market town. It led to the building of the massive new Parish Church of St Alphege, one of the first planned in a scheme for 50 new churches in London, beautifully expressed in the motet O Nata Lux by Thomas Tallis.
So
Just a few yards from the Parish Church is yet another of Greenwich's great attractions, one of Britain's finest sailing ships, the clipper Cutty Sark, preserved in a concrete dock since 1954. Moving at high speed past this great clipper one Sunday morning every April comes a huge army of athletes competing in the London Marathon. Last year, David Holding was the fastest mover in the highly competitive wheelchair section. David, what was it like being first past the finishing post?
Well, it was a marvellous feeling. The race was so close. I didn't realise I'd won it straight away when I was over the line. It was about a minute after the race I knew I'd won. This was the first time I completed the London Marathon. I had to complete another marathon to qualify for the London, and I'd done all the training because I knew it was going to be a tough race. Sometimes it takes a while to get into the race. It feels a bit uncomfortable to start with because you've got a lot of pressures on you, but once you've got going, it's a great feeling.
Some of South East London's talented young musicians welcome us to the Christ Church Forum, London's first centre for integrated living. Christ Church is a Victorian inner-city church, revitalised in a huge community effort. Now it is not only an ecumenical spiritual home for 3 local congregations, but a centre open every day of the week where both disabled and able-bodied work side by side. Now with me are Irene Winters, the parish administrator, and Philip Wardale, a member of the Greenwich Association of Disabled People, an organisation whose impact has been heard well beyond the walls of Christ Church. So how does the association help people?
Well, we work particularly in giving disabled people information, and we also represent disabled people on council committees, and also we provide the dial-a-ride service. We manage it in actual fact for disabled people to get around the borough as well. It's really to show people that if you're disabled, it's not that much of a problem. It's just a slightly different way that you need to run your life, and that we can communicate as well as anybody else, and we can also put things back into the community as other groups do. Thereby we have a value.
You certainly have. Thanks, Philip. Now, Irene, you're the parish administrator.
I am, yes.
So when did you start working for the parish?
I'm going to be killed for this. I've been away from the church. I've moved away. I came back into Greenwich and came back to Christ Church, and we had a new vicar, Ian, and at a barn dance he came up to me and asked me if I would do anything for the church, and I said, well, I can type, but not very well. I started off as a church minder. I kept the church open on Monday mornings, then became Ian's secretary, and then parish administrator. A lot of people are shy to put themselves forward, and through our stewardship mission, in one service I actually spoke about how I got involved in the church myself and told people that I was nobbled by the vicar, which frightened him a bit. And so the ministry of nobbling emerged. In which case, if we have a task in the church that we think needs doing, we look around at the people in the church and say, do you think that person could do it or would like to do it or have a try? And we actually go and approach that person and support them and say, look, give it a go. If you don't like doing it, then you don't have to do it.
A gentle arm twisting, is it?
But it's, yes, quite a disabling of that, I don't think I can do it.
His name shall stand forever. suffer wrong, to help the poor and needy, and bid the weak be strong, to give them songs for sighing, then darkness turn to light, whose souls condemned and dying were precious in his sight. For every foe victorious, he on his throne shall rest. From age to age more glorious, all blessing and all blessed. The tide of time shall never his covenant remove. His name shall stand forever, that name to us is love. His name shall stand forever, that name to us is love.
There have been huge changes in Greenwich over the centuries, and today perhaps the greatest is here on the River Thames, once so busy and prosperous and now almost deserted. So for our final thoughts for this week's Highway, I thought we should meet Fred Sage, who lost his job in all the changes, but is now starting a new career as a town guide.
I came out the docks with a heart condition, and what you didn't realise, if the dock didn't want me, nor did anyone else. And so I started doing a bit of temporary messenger work in the City of London.
Yeah.
Not the best of jobs, but it was a job. And while going around the city, I started looking at all the various plaques, historical places, who slept here and who lived there. And somebody suggested to me, well, why don't you do the City of London course? Which I didn't know there's such a thing existed.
Yeah.
Anyway, I took the course and, blowing me trumpet a bit, I came second in the course, which...
How many in the
I
course?
couldn't believe it. There was about 84 in the course.
Very good, isn't it?
So I thought, I've got to do something more about this.
Yeah.
Something's got to be done here in Greenwich.
Yeah.
Things started working from there. It's geared up for unemployed people.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it?
And it's, yeah, and same as myself sort of thing, and I've got a couple of boys from the docks. One of theirs is ex-stevedore with me. And ladies love it, you know, they make good guides, the ladies around here. They're local people mostly.
Yeah. So how do you think the people of Greenwich should face the future?
Tourism's one thing they're going to have to adapt to, because there's a living here in tourism, without a doubt there is. So yeah, I think, like I say, we've got over a few crises here. Yeah, with the
but they've got
docks
the spirit's good, isn't
bombs
it?
dropping, we've come through it. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Fred. Well, we come to the end of our visit to Greenwich, where in the past people lived with courage and foresight. Next week, Highway goes to Chelmsford. I'll see you there.